Hello and welcome to JSB Talks Digital, the podcast for marketers, digital transformation champions, and those of you bringing your skills into the digital age. I'm Joanne Sweeney-Burke and this podcast is brought to you by Digital Training Institute. In this episode, number 82, I take away the overwhelm that comes with planning social media content. Coming up in today's show, in social media news, Twitter refuses to mute Donald Trump or other world leaders. Instagram rolls out live video in direct messages. Facebook fights engagement baiting. I interview Andy Lambert, Director of Social Media Tool, Content Cal. In shoutouts, 3 great examples of planned content on social. Ask JSB, in JSB's column, The Secret to Successful Social Media Content Planning, and find out what social media tool saved my working week.
Social media news.
Twitter says it will not mute world leaders on its platform because its purpose is to serve and help advance the global public conversation. It comes following a controversial tweet published by US President Donald Trump about North Korea and nuclear buttons. Twitter is already on the record as stating that controversial tweets are evaluated on the basis of whether they are in the public interest and newsworthy. It seems that Donald Trump's tweets are indeed newsworthy because they make mainstream news bulletins and newspapers on a daily basis. Twitter users condemned the tweet and asked that President Trump's account be taken down, as his tweets were, in their view, endangering the world and violating Twitter's policy banning threats of violence. However, Twitter responded by saying, "Elected world leaders play a critical role in that conversation because of their outsized impact on our society. Blocking a world leader from Twitter or removing their controversial tweets would hide important information people should be able to see and to debate." Instagram has rolled out live video in direct messages, allowing users to co-watch private clips. With Instagram Direct, you can send messages, photos, and videos to one or more people. However, messages won't appear in feed, search, or your profile. In order to use the new feature, users can tap the direct icon, which is at the bottom of the screen. When self-recording live video, it can only be viewed by friends who are online at the time. Viewers are able to comment and react to the video. Hands up if you hate like and share on Facebook. Hands up if you hate like this post if you are female or a mother. These types of posts are known as engagement baiting, and Facebook is stamping it out. Users try to take advantage of the Facebook algorithm to extend reach and increase engagement rates. However, according to Facebook, they will now demote individual posts from people and pages that use this tactic. Facebook says, "To help us foster more authentic engagement, teams at Facebook have reviewed and categorized hundreds of thousands of posts to inform a machine learning model that can detect different types of engagement bait. Posts that use this tactic will be shown less in newsfeed. Marketers, it's time to get creative, be original, and understand your audience so much more. And also, it's time to invest more money in Facebook ads."
Interview.
In this episode, I interview Andy Lambert. Andy is director and one of the founding team members of Content Cal. Having initially started as a social media agency, they launched their own social media planning software product in December 2016, which now boasts over 3,500 users, including Honda, Oxford University, and Royal Mail. Andy, you're very welcome to JSB Talks Digital. And guess what? I have to tell my listeners, you found me on another podcast, We Are Social Media, and then you got in touch.
I did indeed. The power of podcasts, eh, Joanne?
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, of course, I never miss content or an interview opportunity. And when we had our conversation just a few days ago, I was like, you have to come on the podcast and tell my listeners your story of Content Cal, because like me, you used to work in the social media agency world, and I know you're still involved, but you identified a particular problem. So share the backstory of Content Cal with us.
Yeah, definitely. So exactly as you've already perfectly articulated. So we were a social media agency, started in 2014. We weren't massive, 10 clients, so probably quite a lot of people could identify with that kind of size. So, to serve those 10 clients, we had about 10 members of staff, sometimes 11, 12, depending on freelancers. And for each of those clients, we would have to create a dedicated content plan. And that content plan would live on Excel or Google Docs, the things that you would be very familiar with, Joanne. So, and with all of that, we always have to go backward and forward over email to kind of review and approve. And it was a nightmare. For us as an agency, we were dying under the weight of all of the admin we needed to do to service our clients correctly. So we tried to look for a solution, because ultimately running an agency is all about efficiency. We were wasting so much time. We couldn't have survived if we were still working in the way that we were. Tried to find a solution, couldn't find one, so the only answer was to step into a brave new world of software. And over kind of the year and a half that it took us to kind of put it together and be in a position we're ready to launch it, it's we've kind of like transitioned our focus of the business, and now we're predominantly a software business now. So an interesting way of basically solving your own need, and seemingly a few others seem to have the same issue.
Well, congratulations on having the courage and determination to transition from being a social media agency to being in the business of software as a service, because that, as you know, is also a very competitive space. So it does take a lot of courage. But thank you also for creating Content Cal, because I want to make an admission. I absolutely hate Excel spreadsheets. I detest them with a passion. I really hate them. And I'm such a visual person, and I love to see things visually in front of me. And so I work with a lot of clients, predominantly now large public sector organizations. So they have multiple stakeholders to keep happy. They have their client, for example, in-house. They also have experts who need to review the content. They might have other partners that they're dealing with in other public sector agencies. So you can imagine that the social media team are probably sinking under death by email and going back and forth. Tell us how Content Cal solves that problem.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a situation we very much identify with. So essentially, people tend to look at social media in kind of three ways. They think, all right, I need to publish the content, I maybe need to manage the community, and I need to analyze my output. So people tend to look at it in three ways. And this is how all of the products that were on the market think about this, because typically the other products are built by technical people, and by my own admission, I am not technical, I'm a social media person. So, but like with anything in life, anything good starts with a good plan. So there was nothing there that kind of linked planning into publishing. So ultimately, all we've done is stick three different processes together. So the planning, which happens on spreadsheets, typically, as you've already said, the kind of collaboration and backwards and forwards around approval, which happens on email, and the publishing, which might happen directly on platform, or maybe use a Hootsuite or a Buffer. So basically, we put three of those separate processes that required separate tools to do into kind of one real visual calendar, because we're social media people exactly like you, Joanne. You know, everything about social is visual. It needs to be beautiful. So the only way, you're never going to make anything beautiful on a spreadsheet. I've yet to see a good-looking spreadsheet. So
totally agree with that.
So that's it, really. So if you're basically all working in one kind of platform, and you can see everything, because social media is as much art as it is science. So it's lovely to see everything kind of what you've built over the last month. See it all built out in a nice visual layout, basically.
And of course, by seeing something visual, and I need to see my workflows, my plans, my strategies in front of me, you then identify very quickly either repetition or content that doesn't tell a proper story, because the best stories on social are almost drip fed to people little bits of at a time. What are your customers saying to you? I mean, you have 3,500, so they must be delighted.
Yeah, so, but I mean, it's still a work in progress. Like anything in life, we've got it to a good point, but we're still taking on lots of advice from customers, because we all know best practice in content planning. Build your plan, build who your target audience is, create your strategy, as you already alluded to. Maybe map out some of the core key events that you want to take advantage of, maybe key national days that are happening that are relevant for your brand or whomever. And then, of course, you also have your content themes or content pillars, as some people might call them. And all of this, you get all of this advice, and someone says, put it all on the spreadsheet. And all of our customers know what the best practice is, but very few of them implement it, because it's difficult. Because they're like, right, okay, today I need to do a thought leadership post, and tomorrow I need to do a post related around product, for example. Content Cal just makes that all real simple, because all of that stuff you can categorize and lay out in a way that you see fit. And I think one of the nice things about this is that whole kind of content categorization didn't exist 6 months ago. It's on the basis of our client base saying, love what you built with the plan, although I'd like to see this. And where it makes total sense and where lots of customers are saying the same thing, we just go ahead and build it. So, yeah, the good thing about working with social media, in this world, like yourself, Joan, people are incredibly passionate to continue to improve, to continue to find ways to get around ever-changing Facebook algorithms. And for that, because we have such a passionate customer base, and it's the most amazing thing to be able to build a product in that space, because people really care about the shape and the direction of your business.
Let's talk about another fear that people have, and in actual fact, in today's Ask JSB, I actually answer a question of one of my listeners, and that's around using third-party tools and actually scheduling your content. There's a fear there, because authentic seems to be the buzzword of the moment, that if you're scheduling and planning content to go out at particular times, you're not being real. I'm not sure what you think, but I'll hold my opinion. What do you think on that?
So I'm going to put my opinion to the side for a minute, because my opinion, as best of my ability, is still going to be biased. But really interesting you asked the question now, because it was last week that Buffer released their independent research. So Buffer launched a study across 200 different social media profiles, and lots of people contributed. There was a big Facebook group where everyone could get involved and say, I want to be part of this. And there was content that was produced, a mix of videos, GIFs, and normal just image and text posts. And this was all it's around Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So this captures a broad spectrum. And across that, they were using various tools. Content Cal was part of this exercise. So it was content posted natively at those times, posted via Buffer, posted by Hootsuite, and posted by Content Cal. And I'll let you Google the results, because just search Buffer organic posting test. There's a massive study on it. Absolutely fascinating. But the upshot of that is the actual engagement you got was massively dependent on the time that you posted and the quality of the content that you produced. There was zero difference between whether you did it organically or through a third-party tool. It's all linked to the quality of the content and the time that went out.
Exactly, yeah. And I think people perhaps get so caught up in, maybe types of software or trends, and they forget the basics. And the basics are understand your audience and know when they're on social and understand the platforms. And that hasn't changed.
That's exactly it. It's a social platform. It's always designed to do things that you believe the people who follow you will like. Exactly as you said. So there's, whether you schedule it or not, that's the challenging thing, because we all know there is best times to post. because, there's lots of data that will give you that, and you can search that independently. And the most challenging thing, and this is what Buffer found in their research, and they would say this to a degree, but they were like, the most challenging thing was to set themselves calendar reminders as to when to post. So when you're not using a scheduling tool, you're constantly thinking, oh, have I got that out? Actually, oh, no, I missed that one. And what I also found for a lot of marketers that haven't used a social media tool before or a scheduling tool before, it always seems to be the thing that slips to the bottom of the to-do list. Like, I need to get a tweet or a Facebook message out today. And it just slips to the bottom of the to-do list, and it ends up slipping onto your next day's to-do list.
And you know what it also creates is that when you take that approach to social media, it becomes a box-ticking exercise, and it no longer
100%.
becomes part of a strategy.
Absolutely agree.
So this brings me on then to my other bugbear, which is consistency. Because if you're not scheduling and planning, then you're clearly not consistent. Because how can you be completely 100% consistent if you get a senior manager coming in and throwing a marketing curveball at you, you're involved in some sort of PR crisis, and you have to dedicate your time to that? Social is going to be missed.
Absolutely right. And I think your experience in your field, Joanne, so you're all over this. But authenticity plus consistency is always going to drive engagement. Fact. So, and authenticity always comes through creating quality content that resonates around your audience and is in line with your objectives. So, I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. It just always seems that social just seems to be the thing that ends up being the kind of the junior part of marketing. I feel it's changing a little bit, but not for everyone. I'm still speaking to people in massive organizations where social's just given to the junior marketing exec that's just started out of college or high school. So, and that's still the challenge. That goes to show some brands' ability to understand where social should sit. So there's still that challenge, Joanne, that's for sure.
And Andy, I hear you, because I'm working with organizations, and social media teams feel that they're not getting the recognition or the authority that they deserve. And I think that people like you and I need to continue to bang that drum and to educate senior marketing leaders, and even if they're not marketing leaders, because you might have CEOs or general managers who are assigning budgets, they need to understand the importance of social, because as we know, complete conversations and votes and political situations and social situations are impacted greatly by social. So I think a realization that social, and I like the way you describe it, that is almost like the junior of the marketing department, that definitely needs to change, because social does not sit on its own. And I feel like I'm going on a rant. God, you've really got me exercised, Andy.
I love it.
Social is part of the communications mix. It has a role in PR, it has a role in direct marketing, it has a role in reputation management, it has a role in sales. So, I think that we need to continue this conversation maybe on stages and in other places to try and get the message out.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
As a final thought to the listeners, what is maybe one of the most common questions that you get from people when you're out and doing business development and selling that perhaps Content Cal can solve, apart from lots of the benefits that we've spoken about already?
Yeah, outside of like the planning, approval and publishing, all that kind of thing, the part where I get lots of questions is, how can I maximize engagement? How can I make social media work for me? And we've covered some of this already. And I think, we've touched on the key points really that I would usually respond to that with. But it all comes back to being able to understand exactly what content is resonating at the right times. So if we're talking about in the context of Content Cal, we've spoken a lot around like the planning and the coordination and collaboration, that part that needs to happen before publishing. But of course, there's the analytics module, which will help you understand exactly what content has performed, how many unique seen, how many link clicks, how much engagement on each piece of content. And all of that content, and this is not a bad thing to do, this can be repurposed and reused. So to drive engagement, and it's kind of similar as to how, I've never made this comparison before, so hopefully it might work. But, you know, if you're trying to send an email to meet someone, I'm thinking more from like a, you know, business development side of things. If you send an intro email to try and meet someone, it's likely that's going to be ignored. Maybe you might want to send a couple of follow-up emails just to see whether they've seen your first one. Typically, statistics would say you would need to get into, if you want to speak to someone, it takes about 5 emails before that person's actually going to respond to you. So, and the reason I bring this up is because in the newsfeed on Twitter, for example, the life cycle or lifespan of each tweet is 15 seconds. So the chance of you hitting your audience with one tweet is very, very unlikely. So the importance of reusing content is something we talk a lot about around when you're trying to maximize engagement. Of course, you're not going to repeat too much. There is some balance that needs to be struck here because your feed should not look like, you know, you're spamming. However, when you understand what content is performing well, it becomes really simple to start choosing to repurpose that content, thus maximizing your investment in the content pieces you're creating and also maximizing your chances of driving better engagement. Does that make any sense?
That makes total sense, and I actually couldn't have put it better myself. Andy Lambert of Content Cal, thank you so much for joining me on JSB Talks Digital, and tell people where they need to go right now to find out more about your software.
Perfect. So here's the plug time. Yeah, contentcal.io. So you can go there and you can create an account for free. So you can use it for one user for free forever. So might be quite useful for any small businesses out there. So
amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Joanne. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem. And Andy, I will talk to you soon.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Shoutouts.
In this part of the show, I give shout-outs to brands, organisations or individuals whose work online is remarkable and worth talking about. In this episode, I'm giving shout-outs to 3 brands who plan with precision their social media content. I've chosen 3 completely different brands in this week's segment.
1.
While I am a very skilled digital marketer, my cooking skills, on the other hand, are not so hot. So you can imagine my excitement when on Christmas Eve I see an ad in Facebook Messenger for ChefBot. Yes, ChefBot. The safe food bot is there to help avoid culinary chaos at Christmas. ChefBot belongs to Ireland's Safe Food Agency, who have the role of promoting awareness and knowledge of food safety and nutritional issues. You have to jump over to the blog post associated with this podcast to see ChefBot in action. This is a perfect example of social media content planning, understanding your audience, and guaranteeing engagement. Let's just say he saved Christmas dinner in my house.
2.
What I love about Adidas is that their Instagram feed tells a story about a lifestyle, and it is so well executed we forget that they are ultimately trying to sell to us. It's clear that Adidas's photos are planned and choreographed to tap into the mood and the mindset of its ideal audiences. We can certainly learn from their visual storytelling.
3.
Spotify uses its data really well, and in an end-of-year special campaign, they informed and entertained us with social graphics telling us what songs users listen to most. In one social media update, a graphic said, 2017, you listened for 17,734 minutes to 2,172 different songs and 1,440 different artists. Along the way, you explored 4 genres. Spotify also uses its data to stay on trend with what users care about and what music and artists are trending by creating seasonal videos and even fake news lyrics. And don't forget, JSB Talks Digital, the podcast, is also on Spotify, so make sure you subscribe.
Ask JSB.
In this week's Ask JSB segment, I have a question from Kate, who works in the event management industry. Kate asked me this question on Facebook. Should you really consider a social media management tool? Isn't it just better to post on the fly? Isn't that more authentic? Kate, thank you so much for your question, because I know it's a question that loads of people are asking. The short answer is yes and no. Yes, you should use a social media management tool if you are a busy marketer. Using a publishing tool does not take away from your authentic voice. Isn't it your voice speaking to your audience at the right time that matters? Planned and scheduled content also allows you the space to have real-time conversations that require your full attention. Having a planned content calendar so you can see what content you are going to post over the course of a week, 2 weeks, or even a month gives you visibility on the messages that you are going to send out. This content, of course, should align with what's happening in your industry and in your business. And if you were on top of your game, you will have your finger on the pulse of both. Thanks for your question and best of luck with your social media. Don't forget, if you have a burning social media or digital marketing question, simply click on digitaltraininginstitute.ie/askjsb and leave me a voicemail. You can also send me your question on any of our social networks.
JSB's column.
In today's column, I unravel the myth about scheduling and planning social media content and give you my top tips on how to be a social media whiz. I have to start this column by giving Lucy Hall a big shout out. Lucy has created the social media planner, and I have one right beside me. Jump over to the blog post associated with this podcast to see me and my planner, which I use daily to plan my own social media content. If you want to develop relevant, targeted, engaging, human, and authentic social media content, it's only going to happen if you have a plan. Publishing and reporting and analysing comes after it. First of all, any good social media marketer will understand their audience. If you realise where Facebook and the other algorithms are going, you will understand that they will only show your content in news feeds if it strikes a spot with your audience. Secondly, in order to understand your audience a little bit more, why not engage in some social listening? This will help you develop topics for your content plan. Some low-hanging fruit is to understand what events are coming up either in your industry or, for example, seasonal events. We're not so far away from Valentine's Day. Is it important for you to step into the moment of Valentine's Day? Think about it. You need to plan for that seasonal event. Don't also forget about what's happening in your business. A lot of the content that I produce actually showcases what I'm doing in Digital Training Institute, and I absolutely know for sure that my customers and my audience love it because they tell me. Then, of course, you're going to have to generate supporting media. Words are not enough anymore. You need high-quality photos, but trust me, your smartphone is good enough for that. You need to design graphics using a tool such as Design Wizard or even Canva. And don't forget to create videos. We know that short, snappy, engaging videos will get you traction. And yes, you can use your smartphone for this. You might also want to engage in live streams. But trust me, folks, you've heard me say it on this podcast before. Planning is everything. Going live on the fly is great if there's a real-time opportunity, but planning your live streams and your video in advance will create more traction. Then, when you publish your content, you're going to understand your ecosystem. Who are the people in your network that you can tag, that you can invite into your social conversation? I would certainly be writing down these people and these organizations during the planning process. If you're creating long-form content, also in the planning process, you're going to repurpose this content according to best practice of each platform. And finally, you need to plan your ad budget. We know right now in 2018 that in order to extend our reach and our engagement, we need to pay to play. If you don't have an ad budget set out right now for every month, then you need to start. And then, and only then, do you start to draft your copy, upload it to a tool such as Content Cal, get rid of those spreadsheets. I think we've gone past the stage of creating content calendars on spreadsheets. You need to send that content calendar to all of your team members, to your clients, and to experts for sign off. And then, my friends, and only then, is it time to publish your social media content. If you want some help with your social media content calendar for 2018, then get in touch. JSB can certainly help. Drop me an email to joanne@digitaltraining.ie.
Social media tool of the week.
The tool that saved my working week this week is Talk Walker Alerts, and it's absolutely free. Do you know when somebody is talking about you, your brand, organization, or your campaign online? Are you taking the social media temperature of relevant topics and conversations and using these insights to influence your online communications and your content plan? Well, I have been using TalkWalker Alerts for the past month. I'm currently writing a blog post on how it has helped me shape a chapter for my new book, as well as giving me ideas for podcasts, vlogs, and blogs. TalkWalker Alerts is free from the guys at TalkWalker and is a really good alternative to Google Alerts. It monitors the web for interesting new content about your name, your brand, your competitors, particular events, or any favourite topic. It's easy to use, and the free alerting service also monitors Twitter, which is something that the Google Alerts doesn't do. Find out more at talkwalker.com/alerts. Thank you so much for tuning into episode 82 of JSB Talks Digital. As always, I have everything discussed on today's show over on my award-winning blog at digitaltraining.ie. If you haven't subscribed on Spotify yet, please do. And if you're not a Spotify user, you'll find us on iTunes, Libsyn, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Don't forget to send me your questions for Ask JSB, or even if you have an idea for a podcast theme, I'd love to hear from you. If you want to be an interviewee in the show, then get in touch. I'm always looking for great stories, anecdotes, and case studies of social media and digital marketing. So don't be afraid to get in touch. You don't need to be a global expert. Everybody has a story if you are a marketer. So tweet me to a Tweets by JSB. Get in touch to our Facebook page, Digital Training Institute. You can also snap me to JSB Snaps, or why not send me a message on Instagram? I'm JSB Grams. I'm Joanne Sweeney Burke. This is JSB Talks Digital. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.
JSB